Hi, welcome back to our podcast, Books Don't Review Themselves. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Kim. Today we are going to talk about The Whispered Tales of Graves Grove. And there are a bunch of authors for this one, so let me just read them off here. Let's see. We have J.S. Bailey, Mackenzie Floor, Elise Mannion, D.M. Kilgore, Kelsey Keating, Matthew Howe, Dakota Caldwell, Catherine Bonham, Raymond Henry, Travis Perry. Yes, so it's a anthology, and two people edited. I know J.S. Bailey was one of the editor. I can't remember who the other editor was. So that was fun. This was nice. A change up. Halloween, got some spooky stories.
Yes.
Instead of a, giant 400-page book. This was only 276 pages. So for us, that's
nice.
Yeah, that's short for us. So that was sweet. Well, I gave it 4 out of 5.
I would also give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay. Sweet. Oh, you know what? I didn't read the synopsis. Why don't I do that? I'll read the synopsis now. All right. Graves Grove isn't your ordinary town. Nestled within the folds of the Canadian Rockies, Graves Grove probably isn't the picturesque place you'd like to stay for long. Peculiar things happen here. The citizens seem normal superficially. They function well enough, but each one is deeply disturbed, wrapped in secrets and neuroses which drive them to strange behaviors. And then there are all the missing children. And why is everyone afraid of that sycamore tree? The Whispered Tales of Graves Grove is an anthology of stories taking place throughout the history of this mysterious town, from its founding to its future. Read them, if you dare. Each one was a short story, and I have the two editors here. It was J.S. Bailey and Kelsey Keating. They were able to pull all the stories together into a cohesive book, which I always find amazing.
So, I guess, elaborate on that. Like, all these authors just wrote these separate stories?
Yes.
And basically they
fit them in.
That's impressive.
It is. And I think a lot of times with anthologies, they either give them a theme, like obviously Graves Grove is the theme, or sometimes they may even tell them to write more so like they want this one to write about the origins of the town, and this one maybe to write about the town in the 1970s, so they might give them a little bit more specific parameters. But yeah,
I really like that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool.
This is probably the first book of this kind that I've read, and I really enjoyed it. It was not what I was expecting, because we pick our books out in advance. So I don't really remember even what the book was about. I knew it was going to be a combination of short stories. And I guess just looking at the cover and the title was not what I got was not what I was expecting when I yeah.
Because the cover's pretty basic. It just has a scary tree on it and some fog.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's probably the sycamore tree on it.
Right. Yep. So I thought, I don't know, maybe more witchy or graveyard, I don't know.
And there was a witchy story in here. I mean, there's a vampire story, a werewolf, shapeshifter, witches, just crazy people. It was everything. Child abduction. I really enjoyed it. The one story that I didn't feel quite fit as well was the vampire one. And it's just because it felt like it was taking place elsewhere. It felt like they were in an underground compound or something. It kind of reminded me of Resident Evil, which is fine because I really enjoy that series. But it just didn't feel like it fit as much with this book. So I think for me, if they would have cut that one out, it would have been a little better. But I still enjoyed that story by itself, though. For that one, I wanted more. And to me, not every story needs to have a conclusion. I mean, we've read books where the story doesn't have a conclusion, and that's perfectly fine. But this one, it needed more information to me. It just I'm like, what?
Did you feel I guess what would have made the book a 5 for you?
Taking that story out. And then I think the other thing, too, is there are main characters that run throughout the whole book. And that was really fun.
Yes.
And then the other thing, there are random characters that you never see again in another story. And then there's some characters that are in a couple or a few of the stories.
Right.
And I think for me, if I would have sat and read this all at one time, I think it's not that I didn't follow it, because you can read a lot of the stories by themselves. You don't even need to read anything else.
Right.
But sometimes when those middle of the road characters that were just in a couple stories came back,
you didn't necessarily
remember, or it took me a bit to remember who it was. So I think those two things would have definitely gave it a 5. So it was really close to it. And the other thing, I wouldn't say it necessarily stuck with me.
As far as, because the thing, I guess I was expecting a little more, and I feel like I've been saying this the last couple podcasts, but I was expecting a little more of thriller or like this. I don't know. I was expecting the story to be just a little bit scarier, maybe.
Okay.
Or, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Where to me, it's like, it was really good,
mm-hmm.
but it just felt to me like it wasn't as dark as what I was expecting. Yes.
I think for like young teens, like maybe 11, I guess tweens, 11 to 13-ish, maybe they would find this really scary.
Right. And maybe like...
But I think it also depends on the teen too, because I know myself, when I was a 12-year-old, I wouldn't have found this scary.
Right.
You know, just because of the stuff that I did read then. I guess even an adult, you know, someone who just reads a lot of easy romances, cozy fictions, Christian fiction, they might find this really scary.
Right.
You know?
And I guess that's the thing I was expecting a little more from this is just that scare factor. I know too. When we picked out our books for October, we were hoping
for scarier books, or twisted books.
Yeah. So that was the intention when we picked this book. And it, like I said, the story was really good. It was different. There was, twists and turns and things that were different, but nothing that I was like, like shaking him,
Not creeped out.
Yeah.
Not like...
enough where I'd be like, how am I going to sleep tonight?
And there was some fun stories in here, too. Like when you find out why there's a bronze statue of the founder in town, and every day it changes its clothes. And you find out why that happens. Like, that was a fun story. I enjoyed that one. There's also a dog. His name's Cooper, that he, like, belongs to the whole town, but no one at the same time. And when you find out more about Cooper, I thought that was, like, his, like, an heroic... I can never say this word.
Heroic?
Thank you. Heroic. Heroic story. Iron, too. I always feel weird when I say iron. But anyway, so that was nice. There was some that broke it up. Not that it was scary or anything, but just the comedy and some other sweet stuff going on, which was nice.
Yeah.
Break. Those are my biggest things with it. The one story that I thought was pretty good. Well, I mean, I enjoyed a lot of them, but the one I guess stands out a little bit more was there's a lady in town who she lost her baby or young child to the sycamore tree, and she dresses in the same outfit like every day. And then later on, she's inside of the house, and she has the carriage, and then stuff happens with the doll and stuff. And I thought that one was pretty good. It was, it was a little like, that's a little disturbing, But there wasn't any that, like you said, were super scary.
Yeah, like the one that kind of stuck with me was, I think, the first one where it was like with the aliens and stuff.
Oh, that one was weird.
Just because I wasn't expecting that in this type of a book. I wasn't expecting like alien stuff. And I'm like, once I started reading more, further into that, I'm like, what? Like, what's going on here?
And that one, it did stand out too. And the thing with the alien one, it's like, okay, if they're talking about aliens, then that should be the reason behind the sycamore tree. But it was only the reason behind the sycamore tree, it felt to me, in that story.
Right.
So whereas other ones was telling reasons of the sycamore tree for other reasons.
Right.
And so I guess that's probably another reason why I gave it a 4, because if it was all about aliens, okay, it's all about aliens.
Right.
But it wasn't. And since it wasn't all about aliens, it kind of took away from the main story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the alien story, when I was reading it, kind of reminded me of The Host by Stephanie Meyer. She wrote the Twilight series. I really liked that book. Okay. We tried to watch that movie one time, and it was not good at all. We didn't.
That was the one in the cave in the desert and stuff?
I think so.
Oh, yeah, we turned it off, didn't we?
Yes. But the book, I really enjoyed it, and I listened to the audiobook, and I believe I own the book. I'd like to actually sit down and read the book. But basically, the premise of that book was that these humans are just the host for this thing, and this thing, you have a life like, there's different, like in space, you could live in space, you could live on Earth, you could live as a flower, like there's just all these different lives. But basically, if this thing takes over you, then basically you essentially get like turned off, and then this thing takes over. And they're like all follow the rules. It's almost like a perfect world, but then it's these humans trying to kind of fight against
becoming bad people.
Yeah, the host, thing that's in their body.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was really a fascinating idea. And I felt like this,
Had
that first story was kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
If it had been a story on its own, like a longer story. But
the other one that I really enjoyed and had the feel of It Chapter 2 when Beverly goes into her old house and that old lady is there. Mm-hmm. It gave me that feeling a little bit because it was
of the part with the old lady.
Yeah, it was the reporter, and he was talking. He needed to get history on the town because he was just doing a pamphlet. The town thought he was doing a book, but he was just doing a pamphlet. And he's talking to this old lady, and like she'll say something, and it's weird, it's bizarre, and he like repeats it back, and she like, I didn't say that, you know. So it had that like weirdness to it. So that one I enjoyed too. That one, I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into a 5 with this one.
I feel like a book like this is hard to be a 5. Mm-hmm. Just because of the fact you have so many.
Scattered.
Yes. And that's, to me, is impressive in itself that it was put together as well as it was.
Mm-hmm. Anything else we want to add to this one? Even my review is pretty short. It's like mainly 3 paragraphs.
Well, I mean, it's a shorter book.
Yeah.
So I would recommend it. Mm-hmm. I think it's a good book. It's a good short book, like if you just kind of need a break from kind of what you're reading. Mm-hmm. It's a quick read.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, obviously good for the Halloween season.
And it's not like we said, it's nothing that's gonna, in my opinion, it was nothing too gory or too anything.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm sticking with 4 stars then.
I'd say 4 too.
But definitely go read it. And yeah. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit us up on Instagram.
And if you ever have suggestions, let us know. We can't guarantee we'll do them, but we'll definitely look into it and get back to you. So,
yeah. And if you're an author, you got something coming out, let us know, and we'll see what we can do.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
sweet.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.